Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of TFT Hyperroll with Artark. I wanted to follow up that last episode with this episode because the themes are a little bit similar. Although I think we can agree that the last episode was just completely wrong, this one isn't completely wrong, it's just a different type of pivot. And I love how everyone has been doing their part to help the YouTube algorithm by liking, commenting, subscribing, doing stuff because our videos are reaching way beyond the subscriber base, and it's awesome to see from this side. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And let's get into where this build goes. Now, the TFT gods are sometimes fickle. Here it gives me a 2-star Senna straight off the bat, and I'm never going to ignore that. But I'm not sure what I'm going to make. Maybe a Cannoneer build, maybe Dark Flight, maybe something along those lines. Then I get a Rel out of the NPC capsule, and then these augments. I am not a fan of Dark Flight Heart, and the reason is, unless you get an additional emblem on top of it, it's just not going to help. It's not going to get you anywhere. You don't get anything for 7. So I go ahead and take the healing augment, and now that I've got 2 Rels, I feel I'm going Cavalier something. It might be Cavalier Cannoneers, or it might be Cavalier Swiftshot. It's going to depend on what else I get. So for at least the first round, it's Cavalier Cannoneer and maybe headed into Dark Flight. Now, in some ways, you would think that Cavalier Cannoneer should work exactly the same as Cavalier Swiftshot because it has the same principle, strong front line, back line, doing lots of damage. But Cavalier Swiftshot has that additional guild element built into it. And while I find Dark Flight okay, it doesn't have that same type of power. It's far more item dependent, and you're losing a champion off the board when you do it. And since I don't get a sword out of this to make a Zeke's Herald, I decide to go with the spatula so that I can then see what this game could possibly turn into. I roll a little bit more, find the 2-star Ezreal, and now a Sejuani, and figure, why not join in the fun? I know I just faced a Cavalier Swiftshot team, which means there's going to be competition for it, but I have seen so many games come down to Cavalier Swiftshot versus Cavalier Swiftshot, I know there's room for 2 or more. The real key, though, is going to be ultimately finding Twitch, because as I mentioned just before, that's going to help increase the guild buff, which is key since the guild bonus goes across the entire team. So when you pick up the speed buff from Twitch, it's applying to your whole team. And I'm still not able to find a Twitch, but I did find a Varus. So I set up in my usual Swiftshot Cavalier way with a Cavalier guarding each Swiftshot. The idea is to intercept anything that's going to get in the way and keep them a distance from the Swiftshots so they get their attack speed bonus. Now for items, I'm really actually hoping for a bow so I can make a Swiftshot emblem, but we don't get that here. I'm tempted to take the BF sword because that will add to a little bit extra attack damage, but since I already have a Giant's Belt, I want to keep making this frontline tankier. So I can go ahead and put a Warmogs onto Sejuani, and remember, she gets a double bonus from the guild buff because she's a guild member and adding it to the team. And Aerie here is clearly headed into a Jade build using Wukong as the item holder, which is a great way to go. The only problem is they don't have many 2-star champs at this point, so it's going to be very hard to stand up against what I am putting down right now. The NPC round is really interesting, not so much in what items it gives us, but what champions are sitting in the shop. But before we do that, we have to look at our augments, and there's really nothing exciting here. But I generally don't like to roll gray tier, so I'll just take the least offensive, which in this case is blue battery, as that will help out Ezreal. As for the shop, it is time to go on a buying spree. We have the spatula, so we pick up Yone just in case we can get that bow and make a Swiftshot emblem. We grab Zippy because that will work into a guild build. So this could end up right now either going in a guild direction or into a full just Swiftshot Cavalier with nothing else holding it together. And I was very torn about whether to pull Lilia and add Twitch or to keep it at 3 Cavaliers. I end up staying at 3 Cavaliers for a reason. It just seems to clog things up longer, and 2 Swiftshots are enough to take out an entire team, in this case even one with a gold Nidalee. Now here's where things get a little difficult and crazy to decide what I'm going to do. Out of the NPC round, I got the bow. I can now make a Swiftshot emblem. So that is now a possibility, Swiftshot Yone. Then I get the opportunity to pick up a chain vest, which means I could make Cavalier Zippy. Then I see the shop and a 2% chance there's a Graves, which means I could make Swiftshot Graves and pair that with Ezreal to make a Tempest. So Swiftshot Graves now becomes a real possibility, but for the moment, I'm just going to have to watch and see what the shop is going to give me. Now I want to show this next fight at regular speed because it really showcases something. That other team should beat me. They have effectively 3 Swiftshots, 4 Cavaliers because they have the Swiftshot heart, while we have 3 Cavaliers, 3 Swiftshots, so we're at a disadvantage. But the way they clumped everyone allowed Ezreal to have the extra speed he needs and do enough damage to get through, and that ultimately wins the fight. When you go Cavalier Swiftshots, spread everyone out so that you're always going to get maximum speed. Now, in the what the heck is this build going to be saga, things get more complicated. I can 2-star the Yone, so I decide to use him as a Swiftshot, which means, bye Zippy, we're not going to be doing Cavalier Zippy this round. But there's another Graves down there, and while at the moment the 2-star Yone is going to be more powerful, I grab the Graves just in case I can 2-star him and then turn him into the Swiftshot later on. And I think I had mentioned in my Jade video how often I was seeing it, and you can see that in this match. This is now the second Jade team we've run into. They're instead looking to use Gnar as their main carry instead of building into the Xayah items, but we do get through them. It is down to our final augment and some real tempting options right here. Portable Forge is always just so much fun, I guess is the right word, because it can be a winner or a loser. I'm considering strongly the healing, but it's hard to resist the temptation that chance is going to bring for the ultimate item. These are actually some good choices. I decide to go with Death's Defiance because that will allow me to keep one of my Swiftshots up longer and give them some Omnivamp. Now, all my hesitation on augments and choices, it made me forget to put someone new in, so it just grabbed a Lilia off the bench and threw it in. And luckily, our Swiftshot Yone, well, he doesn't care what Cavalier is in front of him, he's just going to chop through things until he gets the job done. It's Treasure Dragon time, and to be honest, I'm still not exactly sure what this build is going to be. This first offering is pretty good. It's got a target dummy in it, so I can put some distractions out on the board. It gives me a Titan's Resolve, which I can put on Yone. And you probably missed it, but I checked the Mirage buff earlier, and it is the Spell Sword enchantment, meaning that Yone will get stacking ability power as he attacks, so if we can add to that with the Titan's Resolve as he goes, well, that's even better for him. So right now this build is looking like it's just going to be pure Swiftshot Cavalier. We can tank up Sejuani a bit more. Nunu will provide a little bit of the Mirage buff for Yone, so that will allow him to at least increase the ability power along with that Titan's Resolve, and we can put the Shroud of Stillness onto Lilia so that she is sort of moving around the board as we need her. But then we find a Daeja, which opens up all new types of possibilities, and we still haven't necessarily given up on the concept of Swiftshot Graves. And we face off against Jade Team number 1, who has most of the Xayah items still on Wukong and has really tanked up their Gnar to 2 stars with a Warmog's Hand of Justice and Rageblade. But luckily our team is tanky enough to hold them up, and Yone just sits in the corner doing damage until Nunu finally says chomp. Now, a lot happened during the NPC round. We 2-starred the Graves, we found a Yasuo, and we got another Daeja. But we need to choose an item before we commit to getting rid of the Lilia, which is what I want to do. Goodbye, Lilia. No, not yet. First, Runin's Hurricane is going to work for Yasuo. So we're going to switch in, not Yone, Yasuo. Thank you. Okay, we're going to switch Yasuo into the game and give him the rapid fire cannon and the Runin's Hurricane. That way he can be doing damage as a warrior along with Yone and also a Mirage. But right now, let's be real. This build is just weird, but it's working. The two Tempests are allowing for enough of a stun to allow the Swiftshots to power up even more. Yone is pretty much carrying because he's slicing things from the back, but it's a combination you would never really think of putting together in this way. And now we're going to complicate things even more because I just 2-starred the Daeja before this fight started, but there's not going to be enough room to put a Daeja on after this fight. I'd have to take somebody off. But this build I'm facing, that is the other Jade team, they're kind of going to make my decision for me because that 2-dragon combination is just too much for me to handle. So now Crazy is about to get a little crazier. I've picked up some Sorakas, got rid of Lilia, and put Daeja into the game. The NPC had a Rage Blade, so that's obviously going on to Daeja. Then we get the item choices. Remember how I talked about wanting to do a Swiftshot Graves? I can do it now. Can pick up the Swiftshot emblem, put it on Graves, put the Rage Blade onto Daeja. I pick up a 2-star Soraka because it's just never a bad thing to have in your back pocket. Right now I'm at 10, so I'm not in danger of going out, but if I lose, I might need that Soraka to keep me in the game. Now, Wacky Swiftshot Cavalierish combination meet Wacky Swiftshot Cavalierish combination. That's what's going on here. We're both kind of Swiftshot Cavaliers. I have a Swiftshot Graves and Yone. They have a Swiftshot Nunu. But their Bard was able to hold up enough of our team that they end up defeating us and putting us in real danger. But at the same time, it brings us into the top 4. But if I want to win, stuff is going to have to change. I wanted to do Swiftshot Graves. It's not going to happen this game. It's going to be Swiftshot Daeja. And that extra speed may help. Picking up the 2-star Yasuo is key. And since we are in the top 4, we can know definitively who we are fighting against, check them out, and move my Twitch over so that I am putting the Shroud of Stillness over the majority of their team. I also made sure that the power side of my Swift shots are going against the majority of their team, so they're going to pick up as much speed as possible. Soraka is healing, so I'm back to 6. I could still go out this round, but I feel like I have the advantage on this team just based on how I placed Daeja and Yone, and you can see it works out. They are able to do enough damage to allow us to win and eliminate this player. Now, thanks to Soraka, I'm going to have 2 lives left because I'm going to go up to 8. And we, again, know who we're going to fight, so we need to check in. That is a very difficult team to get past. But I'm going to place everyone over to the left and hope they don't check in on me, and Twitch can Shroud of Stillness the majority of their team. We got very lucky because we were playing the Ghost, so they didn't try to counter-position me, which allowed everything to be set up perfectly, so that Shyvana didn't come in and end up knocking up all of our Swift shots, so they get to full power, and Daeja is able to power up AP and just do a ton of damage, ultimately wiping them out and leading the damage charts. One of the reasons I like Soraka so much in hyperroll is that it was key to get me up to 8, because I am facing now that same Swift shot team that we beat earlier due to their positioning, but then they beat us just through sheer overpowering. I now have 2 chances to get through it. Their Bard basically wipes my entire team. By taking them out at that moment, they're able to push in, which is going to slow down my Swift shots, and while Daeja's attacks are strong, they're not quite strong enough to overcome it. So the problem in that last fight was that Bard ult. So what I go ahead and do is create a different clump of champions that's more tempting for Bard to hit. The key here is for Daeja to power up, because remember, it's stacking ability power. So if Daeja can keep attacking, the Rage Blade is going to keep stacking, and Daeja's final burst is going to be even more powerful. It works. Bard does not hit the main clump of my characters. It allows Daeja to just keep on powering up, and we're able to ultimately then get through them. Now, this is one of the longest games I've played all year because we are actually headed into the sudden death round. I almost forgot it existed. Since I was able to pick up a second 2-star Yone, I decided to switch to Death's Defiance onto Daeja so that they can stay up longer. I picked up an Ao Shin because I, again, forgot I was in the sudden death round. Whoever loses is going to take 30 damage, so Soraka's heals are actually not going to help me in this round. If you ever get to 10-1, you don't need a Soraka. I go up to 8, it didn't matter. If I lose, I'm out. But the key to me was that Daeja's not going to take as much damage and is going to get some Omnivamp back, and oh yeah, that worked perfectly. And they take all the damage, and it is GG for the longest game I've played this year. Hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, have an absolutely awesome day.